the people that are best at using AI as AI exists right now are people that have expertise in XYZ, because you are still the quality control officer of that whole process.
The AI Advantage. Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show, and I'm your host, Richard Ray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Dr. Nici Sweaney. Nici has spent almost 20 years as an academic scientist and a decade as a data scientist consulting for global organizations like the UN and World Bank. In 2023, she founded AI Her Way, which is an AI consultancy firm built by women for women. Today, we're talking about AI's impact on women, the new gender gap. Nici, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's really great to have you here, Nici, and this is quite an unusual one today. I always ask my guests, where in the world are you? And there's a lot of audio listeners that are missing out on the visuals here. So, Nici, where in the world are you?
I, at the moment, am sitting in my car in Potato Point at a campground. So my tent is to the right of me.
Well, if we get any guest appearances from people on the campground, I'm sure we'll deal with that as we go along. Anyway, let's crack on. So, Nici, tell me a little bit about yourself, because you've done some amazing things. Like a lot of my guests, I merely scratched the surface of the amazing stuff that you've done.
Well, thank you so much. I like to think I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades. I've had a very kind of varied mixed bag past. I grew up thinking that I would be the next David Attenborough. That was sort of my passion. Loved animals, as naturally kids do. I thought I must want to be a vet, and quickly realized I didn't actually want to be in a clinic with dogs and cats for the rest of my life. So I ended up doing zoology at university. Loved science, loved being outside, loved research questions, delving deep, problem solving. So I didn't really want to get a real job. So I thought, why not stay? And I stayed and did honours, and then I stayed and did a diploma, and then I stayed and did my PhD. And around that time, somebody at a dinner overheard that I knew how to code. So for my PhD, I had to learn how to code. And they said, oh, we need a statistician in a project. And I said, yep, sure, I can do that one. Put my hand up for it. That was for a research project looking at how to get more women into politics in developing nations in the specific region. And yeah, from that moment onwards, I spent the next 10 years consulting as a data scientist alongside teaching in universities in Australia. And all of that time, I always had a side hustle of some description. So I think my first one, I had an online fitness business. For a while, I made children's cakes for money. I had a baby's clothing line for a little while, dried flowers, party arrangement, you name it. I've probably tried to monetize it at some point. And yeah, I got to the point of being the lead of academic and education quality and excellence at a university. Was talking more and more about what AI meant to education specifically. And one night, putting my son to bed, I just thought, actually, am I going to keep talking about AI just to education people, or what am I going to do with this sort of, this new niche and this market that people kind of want me for? And I thought, actually, the people that really need this are women. We're the people that are struggling with the mental load already. When women are in businesses, they leave it much later until they hire help. We often feel much more pressure to be perfect, to deliver quality, to do more, to prove ourselves. And if anyone needs, a low-cost, no-cost robot that works for us 24/7, I figured it would be women. And that's what launched AI Her Way. And the rest is, AI Her Way is now 9 months old. I have several employees now. We have a whole bunch of beautiful clients across female entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners, small and medium enterprise. And it's just going really fantastically. And it's super interesting work. And it's something that makes me feel like I get to make a difference and help women, which is ultimately what I've always wanted to do.
Well, that sounds like something that's incredibly powerful and was definitely needed because, as you say, it's a new gender gap, and there's no doubt that there's, certainly a gender pay gap in pretty much every part of life. So, this is another area where you don't want to be left behind in that respect. So this
Yeah.
is great. This is great news. So tell me about the sorts of services that AI Her Way offers.
Yeah, so AI Her Way predominantly started just as an education service. So I would go and do professional development and workshops and seminars around how do we use artificial intelligence? What is it? How to use it ethically? What do you have to keep in mind with safe AI usage? And then how do you actually start with it? What's the use case that's going to get you going? And the next day you're going to open it up and feel confident that you know how to use it. But pretty quickly it evolved. Through these conversations, I really realized that lots of businesses needed someone that could not only teach them how to use it, but could do a bit of business strategy and work out how AI would make a difference to their particular business and company. And so that's what I started doing, started going into female-founded businesses and companies, having a look at all their systems and processes, working out how AI can make their life faster, better, cheaper, more wonderful, and we build those AI solutions for them. So now there's really two branches. There's a full service consultancy where we align AI solutions to business strategy and then build those solutions and hand them over to the business or the company. And I also still do PD and workshops and seminars and speaking events because, I'm a teacher at heart. So I love that kind of stuff and I can't escape it, and nor do I want to. So they're really the kind of two branches of it. I also still go into schools and universities and teach teachers about AI. That's less of a gendered focus and more of a focus on access and equity. But AI Her Way is really central to women and female founded businesses.
Fantastic. So tell me, what are the typical sort of product services that you deliver?
Yeah, so when we go into businesses, it usually depends on the size of it as to what they want. But when we're talking about entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, it's automating all of those little things that we either don't enjoy doing, that we don't have time or resources for, or that we'd love to be doing, but we just never are able to get to it. So those sorts of things are often, we build automations that scale the internet and collect all the research that's come out in the last week and all the news headlines that have come out in the last week in your particular niche, do a summary report, and then send that to your email address. So on Monday morning, when you're having your coffee, you can read about all the latest developments that are particular to your niche. Or we might have another automation that then takes all of that research and then drafts your social media content for the week. And again, puts it into your Dropbox folder ready for you to review. We also build ones around client care and customer care, ones that automate your email management. It's all that kind of fiddly stuff. So for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, the easiest way to describe it is that we end up building you an assistant that's powered by AI instead of a human one, or complementary to a human one. And particularly for females and for women that start their businesses, they often leave hiring help till quite late in the piece because they always think that they have to have enough cash flow to cover that person, when really hiring a person can often increase your cash flow. So I'm really passionate about empowering those women to set up AI as their assistant so that they can have that extra help, so that they can scale their ideas, so they can get more space and time to work on the big picture stuff and really concentrate on what drives them and what their passion is, and designate everything else to something that barely costs anything.
So it sounds like there's quite a big jump from some people just using ChatGPT and typing things in to some of the things that you're doing. There's that separation that exists there. So what are the technologies and products that you favor? Are you using ChatGPT, OpenAI, using Gemini, using Copilot from Microsoft? What's the mix?
Yeah. So we usually design it in what we like to call an AI agnostic way, which means that at the moment across most of the testing, ChatGPT Plus is kind of outperforming a lot of the models, although Claude 3 and Gemini are getting pretty close now. But we design it in a way that you can flip the AI part between any model that you prefer. So if one is working better for a time and then it starts to give you a bit of a funky answer or it goes off track a little bit, we can try different models. And we do this through building through things like Cassidy and Respell and Make. So these programs are low-code, no-code platforms. They're a little bit like Zapier, but they have AI capabilities as well. So you can think about it like, whereas Zapier can take an email and save it into a file, these programs can take an email, have a think about it, contextualize it, repurpose it into something else, and then drop it into a file management software. So we're taking it from using AI to automating tasks with AI, which is really where you start to get a lot of that uplift in terms of your productivity and your efficiency.
You mentioned automation there, and an area that I'm particularly interested in at the moment, which is no code and low code.
Yeah.
How much of a difference is that making? I mean, we're talking about how much time is that saving to create services?
Oh my God. You can create, so just for example, when I was talking about the one that can gather information about your niche and repurpose it and propose your social media content and saves that into a file somewhere, send you an email that's ready for you to review. We can create that in a matter of minutes now, whereas that would have been a really involved process to set that up from scratch coding before we had all these generative AI tools. And what that means for businesses as well is that you can get services like this for a really affordable price point and it can be ready for you in a matter of weeks. And what I'm really passionate about is that we always do training with staff to hand over that process and the care of that automation to someone internal. It's not my interest that, I trap you with the golden handcuffs that you have to pay me forevermore to kind of keep these things going and make sure they work. I'm very passionate about empowering businesses and individuals, and particularly women, to feel like they have ownership over these things. So really you're hiring me so you can get it done quicker and you know that it's done right. And then we're empowering you and your team, if you have one, to take ownership over those processes so you understand not only how that works, but hopefully the dream is that you then understand how you can replicate that and do other things in your business on autopilot.
There's still a degree of fear with a lot of people about AI and what it can and can't do. How do you help your customers get over that?
I really understand people's fear. I think when I opened up, or specifically ChatGPT for the first time, I really had that moment of existential dread where I was like, what is the point of humanity? And, there's no incentive for us to do anything anymore for the rest of time. So I completely understand people's dread and fear and that overwhelm as well that comes with it, because the technology is moving so quickly. It's very hard to ever feel like you are truly flourishing in the world of AI. And I think lots of people, they fall under the misconception that because my whole business is AI, I must be very pro AI and that, I don't have any issues with it. And that's just not the case. I actually think that AI could go either way. And the reason why I do what I do is so that more people are aware and feel empowered and are going into using AI with an eyes wide open approach, right? And why I'm particularly passionate about women using it is, as a stereotype, women are the ones that have empathy, are worried about social good, are concerned about how it works out for everybody else and our children and our children's children. Is through having women involved in artificial intelligence that we hopefully can use AI to help us answer and solve some of humanity's biggest challenges. Because I think that's where the potential is. You can ideate so quickly with AI, and it has such a large capacity in bringing different sources of information together that it could really help us tackle some of these huge challenges that we are facing. And that's why I'm passionate about doing what I do. So for people to get over the fear of AI, I mean, there is a part of fatalism where it's the cat is out of the bag and we can't do anything else about it now, right? But there is also an awareness about how it actually works. So there's a lot of fear with artificial intelligence because there is an unknown element. It's stealing all my data, it's reading my mind, and then it's regurgitating that to other people, ready for them to take from me. And that's not exactly how AI works. So first and foremost, whenever I consult, whether somebody wants me to build them a little customer inquiry chatbot, right up to a full-scale web application platform, I always do AI literacy training with everybody that's involved so they understand how AI works, how it uses their data, and what measurements we can put in place if it's really important that we're protecting that sort of data or that sort of IP. And I think that really helps people get over that initial fear because, it's a bit like anything. If you don't understand how it works, it's very easy to make assumptions about how it works and become fearful of that. When you actually understand that it's not magic, it's not human, it's just code that's been taught to behave in a certain way, that really takes some of that mystique out of it for a lot of people. And they feel a lot more empowered that they can go around the dinner table and, I give lots of kind of tangible analogies about teaching your baby how to talk. And I've got this whole slideshow thing with lots of pictures of dogs in it actually that explains how AI works. But people can go home around the dinner table, they can kind of re-explain how AI works, and that takes away the fear of the unknown for them. So I think AI literacy, first and foremost, is where you want to start with that kind of stuff and breaking it down so it's not this behemoth of magic that's just out there, and it's something that's really tangible that people are
not going to take over the world. As you say, it's not going to read your mind or anything like this. It's actually
exactly
this is a tool at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a code with parameters. It matters how we use it, and that's why I love doing what I do, because if you use it for good things, you can have fantastic outcomes, and that's what we want more and more people doing, right? If quote unquote good people with morals and ethics and that are skeptical about AI, if they never interact with it, I think that's a real danger, because we're only leaving it up to the people that aren't going to question how it works. And again, all of my teaching has told me that women stereotypically worry more about how it works. And that's why I want to get as many of them involved as possible, because they're the ones that are going to raise the alarm bells when alarm bells need to be raised.
That humanity aspect sounds incredibly important, and just spreading the message of using, well, let's call them the soft skills, the empathetic side of, even understanding how the world can work is incredibly powerful. Yeah. So just on a slightly academic bent then, the concept that I've been reading about a little bit recently is the kind of post-knowledge age that could happen. So a lot of your customers have probably got lots of great life skills and they know lots of things and they're using AI to supplement them now. But there may be a generation coming through, and the analogy I always use is there may be a whole generation of people that can't read a paper map because they've only used GPS. So do you see a stage coming where 20 years from now, people have used AI so much that their actual true understanding of how things are done will be diminished?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point, because like I said, the other arm of AI Her Way is I still go into schools and universities and talk about AI a lot. So this conversation comes up a lot, because when I'm having these conversations, and with businesses too, I often say the people that are best at using AI as AI exists right now are people that have expertise in XYZ, because you are still the quality control officer of that whole process, right? You've become the CEO and you have this thing working for you, but you ultimately have enough foundational knowledge that you can still check what it is giving you. You can still validate the output. You can still have some sort of directive over what that looks like. Whereas you're exactly right. The next generation, if, this is going, it's not an if, this is going to be so ubiquitous that element of having foundation knowledge will be lost a little bit. I guess I'm a little bit more positive about it in terms of I don't necessarily think that's going to be a bad outcome. I think, like, I can't remember my mother's phone number at all anymore. I used to be able to, right? Yeah. I don't think that I'm inherently not a smart person because of that fact. I think that, there's something else that's now occurring in my brain. And certainly through my own adventure with artificial intelligence, using it and delegating tasks to it, I've been able to start things that have only ever been ideas before, because I just haven't had the capacity to devote to those things. And in fact, before I even started AI Her Way, I got 3 promotions just because I was able to scale and launch new ideas that I had, but that I was able to execute because I could do it quickly and do it very, very cheap. So in my head, I like to be a bit more positive that we will instead use that space for more creative thinking, that we will be able to come up with new ideas. Like I said, we'll be able to answer and solve some of humanity's biggest challenges because we actually have the capacity to do it, because AI is doing this kind of quote unquote like lower level, mundane, repetitive, rules-based tasks that we are very good at making machines do, right? But there's still those elements of tying really abstract ideas together that at the moment humans really have the upper hand in that regard. So my hope is that we will have a generation of students and young people that very early on can start asking really big questions, because they don't have to devote all that time to the foundation knowledge that we think, they have to. But really, they don't have to. It's like remembering the phone number. They can access it other ways and do more meaningful things.
So it sounds to me that you see that the benefits outweigh any of the negatives, or most of the negatives at least.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. But if we get all the right people involved and we can empower people, and enough people that care about how things turn out, engage with artificial intelligence and have a say in how it is used, I do really think that it could lead to some amazing things.
Fantastic. Now, what has surprised you, though, about AI?
Gosh, I don't know a whole lot of, I guess the pace of it. I mean, I've become accustomed to it now, but I guess if I reflect on my journey through this, it is unlike anything that we have seen before in terms of how quickly it has progressed and, what using ChatGPT 3 was like compared to what AI can do now and how many tools are out there. I mean, yeah, I gave a conference in May of last year, and I think at that time there was 3,000 generative AI tools, and now there's 13,500. It goes up by about 1,000 tools every month at the moment. So I think what surprised me is this feeling that we are back in a sort of gold rush, Wild West.
Yeah, I was going to say Wild West. It's
Yeah.
it's the internet all over again.
Exactly, and it's like the .com era, and I guess I'm not super young, but I'm in my 30s, so I guess it's my first real experience of living through something this transformational. So I think in ways that has surprised me, but probably it's more people's response to it. It's more how humans behave that has surprised me more than what AI does do and can do. It's at the moment, the real diversity in people's attitudes towards it. And as someone that does use it every single day, it's just amazing to me that there's people not using it. It is like insisting we handwrite when you've got a word processor sitting next to you. When you've seen what it can do and you've leveraged it to be able to do more and do better things, it is wildly insane that there are people that have not engaged with it at all. And again, a lot of the time it's because AI literacy, we're already time poor, so you think I can't possibly learn this other thing, or you don't know how it actually applies to what you do, and it just seems like something else that other people do.
But if people can make that time to learn a few little things, it's amazing how much more time will open up.
Yeah, and the learning curve isn't big, right? It's not learning to code. Like I teach people how to code. It's like pulling teeth, right? It's not learning to code. It's not, it's not learning a new language. The learning curve is very, very small. And again, when, I go and do these PDs and seminars, we really focus on, I will give you something that you can try right now that you can keep doing tomorrow that will make a difference. And once people have that, then it's like, oh gosh, thank goodness, and now let's do something else with it. And it goes from there.
And earlier on, you mentioned this amazing increase in the amount of tools out there. Now, when GPTs became available on ChatGPT, the quality varied so wildly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of them were truly amazing. Some of them were truly atrocious.
Yeah.
So how do you recommend that anybody listening today or watching today can find the right sort of tools to help them?
This is a question that comes up a lot because it is sheer overwhelm out there. I always tell people to start simple. So my kind of rule of thumb is learn how to use a large language model first. So that's ChatGPT, Gemini, it might be Bing, it might be Claude, whatever the preference is. Learn how to use that first, because learning how to interact with a large language model actually gives you a lot of power with being able to assess these other tools out there. Because lots and lots of these other tools are, OpenAI with a pretty wrapper shoved over the top of it, right? So once you've leveraged large language models, you can actually start to see the gaps and start to say, okay, I can't quite get what I want. So maybe now it's worth looking for a tool that fulfills that particular gap. And then beyond that, I really think there's very few times that most average people will need a bespoke tool to do something. But when you do, it is a little bit of trial and error. I mean, I do a lot of trying and erroring, and then I send out the kind of top list in a newsletter to try and reduce that overwhelm. There's lots of different people that do that sort of thing. So I recommend, find someone you trust, listen to their advice, and don't get distracted by shiny object syndrome. There are, literally thousands of tools that will do the one thing that you're looking for. It's very easy to fall down a rabbit hole. So my advice is learn to use large language model, find someone that you trust, and just use what they tell you to use, and don't worry about it too much.
Makes a lot of sense. So if there was one piece of advice that people should take away from our conversation today, what would it be?
My gosh, start. If you haven't started already, and particularly to the women that are listening, or, any kind of, trans or non-binary or gender diverse people that are listening, you are the voices that need to be involved. And I really actually think there's a moral obligation to be involved to ensure that AI is used for good and not evil, right? And I think that the more diversity involved and the more representation, the better the outcome is going to be. I mean, we've known this for a while. AI at the moment is not very diverse and not very representative. There's a lot of bias going on, and that's very hard to see if we don't have people from other groups involved in it, pinpointing that and pointing it out, and then starting to be passionate enough to go out there and, interact with these things, but also maybe explore building something that is better and that serves humanity for better outcomes. So one is a big call to arms to just get involved. And two is, from a really practical point of view, if you don't know how to get started, I always recommend to get out a piece of pen and paper, write down all the things that you do on a regular basis. That can be in your work or your personal life. It can include grocery shopping or finding birthday presents for the kids' friends on the weekend. Take out a highlighter, and anything that you would feel comfortable getting an assistant to do or a graduate, you definitely can get artificial intelligence to do those things. And so just start with one of them, and you'll pretty soon be crossing off the entire list and feeling a lot better about life.
That's great advice. So, Nici, where can people find you, and what exciting projects have you got on the horizon that they should know about?
Yeah, I'm on pretty much all social media channels at AI_her_way. On LinkedIn, I'm just AI her way, no underscore. So LinkedIn and Instagram is where I hang out the most. People can find me there, or www.aiherway.com.au. And apart from consultancies that are really bespoke for businesses, I also have an online course called the AI Powered Business Academy. In that, it's made just for women and female entrepreneurs and business owners. And in that, I teach you not only about AI literacy, but also about how to start building those automations and how to define your AI strategy in your business. So it's not just about using ChatGPT. It's how do we start actually delegating those tasks? How do we build it with those low-code platforms? And what does that look like across your business? And how is it going to help the bottom line? So if people want to come and join us there, you can enroll at any time. We've got a great community of female entrepreneurs in there that are all building some really amazing things. We'd love to share it with you.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you for your time today. As I say, this has been a unique interview with the location that you're in. And you say kangaroos flying past and a few BMXers in the background. So
that's right. Exactly. Some flapping tarps.
It's been fantastic.
Thanks very much, Richard.
Nici, thanks for your time. Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Ray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.